And that was actually a point that I read yesterday. Jasmine Koenig wrote a column on that, and actually we did discuss it on yesterday. Kelly, your question for Cleo. Last question.
Sure. So obviously, I don't have the lens of a black man on this situation, but what I do see is the fact that from my perspective, it does feel as though black men, specifically black celebrities, have more grace when it comes to problematic statements and problematic actions with the community as opposed to black women. When it comes to cancel culture, it feels as though when it comes to black men doing things such as this, there is more of a counsel culture. Like right now, we're talking about counseling the baby into seeing the other side of this issue and really coming to senses with his homophobia. However, we have female celebrities who have done less, but have been canceled almost indefinitely, such as Macy Gray, Azalea Banks, Chrisette Michelle, and there are others. So I guess if you could speak on how this needs to be a universal solution in terms of counseling our black celebrities, in terms of counseling our black people into these issues, and making sure that there's a more holistic, less Eurocentric and phobic approach to such things. If you could give your comments on that, hopefully I'm making sense in this regard.
Well, let's be clear, sister. There is no counsel culture for black men. That's not true. There is no counsel culture. I wish that was true, but that's not true. There is no counsel culture or no critical thinking encouragement culture around black issues as a systemic norm in the United States of America. And I don't want to bring women into this yet because it will distract from the point of what's happening right now, which is black male behavior. And it's easier, for example, to simply call Mr. Kirk or DaBaby homophobic. However, it's not that simple. What's going on with people like Kirk is, am I man enough ophobia? Are you going to see me as a man ophobia? And a lot of black men, in some ways, in terms of its performance, is quite dysfunctional. But that's a lot of what's happening with black men. And the cancel culture for black people, regardless of gender, is quite high. But I want to reiterate, there is no counsel for black men. When the white gay community, for example, steps up, and that's who put this man's name in the lights right now, they are the ones who do the canceling of black men. Just like with the brother that Mariah Carey used to be, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon got canceled by white Jews because they were offended by what he said. We need to develop the entitlement. See, white people have what I call entitlement consciousness generally. They feel entitled. They don't play that. You don't mess with them. But we second guess that if we're entitled to voting, if we're entitled to not get killed by a virus, we are in a state of questioning. And frankly, people like DaBaby and the perpetual highlighting of this kind of toxic behavior reinforces the trance and the disorientation among black people. And we need to understand this and address this. But nobody's having a council culture. If we had a council culture and really ask each other why we do what we do, in particular people like DaBaby, why did you do that? Instead of just shutting them down so he can give you the classic apology that makes the gay community feel like, okay, we controlled him, but nothing changes. I mean, we've been dealing with black men who have said so-called homophobic things for the longest, and it has not deceased because we're not addressing the baseline issues. And when we start doing that, we'll have black men and black people who are more awake, who are more critically thoughtful, who are concerned about how black people look, who are really willing to not call black women bitches and hoes and each other the N-word, when we as a collective say, we're not having it, we're not tolerating it. Like the white gays said, we're not gonna let you do something that's so-called homophobic. We have to have that entitlement consciousness too. And right now we don't have it. I think that shows like Roland Martin's show can help engage us and help impose that kind of consideration among black people. But on a general basis, we're just going along with the okie doke, not because we're deficient, not because something is wrong with us, but we are acculturated from a media level to an educational level to second guess our worth. And we're so busy in a second guessing trance that we don't come up for air and say, no, you're not going to do that. Or again, why did you do that? What's behind that behavior so we can understand that and address the factors leading to it so we can do some kind of intervention, as opposed to just having white gays and their black followers shut another brother down. That's kind of problematic. There's some racism in there that looks like a homophobia rescue story, but there's some opportunism on shutting black men down who are already shut down on a macro level inside of this alleged homophobia concern. And I'll close with this. The white gay community and their black followers are not equipped to talk to black people or address black people in ways that are helpful to us, that even considers the issues that I'm raising. It's all about calling the next person homophobic with no context. And I consider Mr. Kirk castrationophobic. I'm not sure I'm a manophobic. I'm going to be a hyper-masculine man and make up for that insecurity by stepping on stage and muscles and a tattoo and arbitrarily talking about homosexuals to make sure people know that I'm not like that because I'm a man. And I'm a man concerned, which is not based on black people just being irrational. Black men have a reason to be concerned about how they're seen. Even the police brutality, for example, and the murders of black male bodies on the street is a reason for black men to be hyper-masculine. And like I said in my previous comments, when I go to these mental health conferences and talk to these parents about if indeed they're engaging their children about the abuse of black people in public, majority of them aren't. And some of those boys started crying in the audience because nobody had ever given them permission to even consider how these issues hurt them. And Mr. Kirk used to be a baby boy. And we're all former children. And black people have work to do.
All right. Cleo Monago, we surely appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the invitation. Good to see you, Ro.
Likewise.
Coach, back to that, bro, with my